As I walked through the grand entrance of my sister's mansion, the scent of expensive perfume mixed with the rich aroma of gourmet dishes wafting from the kitchen hit me like a wave. The sound of clinking glasses and laughter echoed through the opulent halls. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the rising tide of anxiety within me. This was a family gathering, one that always left me feeling small and insignificant, but I was determined to make it through the evening without embarrassment, or so I thought. Look who decided to grace us with their presence. My sister Vanessa lounged on the plush couch, a glass of champagne delicately cradled in her manicured hand. Her designer dress hugged her frame perfectly, a stark contrast to my modest attire. The other guests, all part of her world of wealth and privilege, turned their heads my way, their laughter fading into uncomfortable silence. "Honestly, you're lucky we let you come," she continued, her tone dripping with condescension. "You know how exclusive our gatherings are. I hope you didn't think you could just show up uninvited. That wouldn't be a good look for you." The laughter of her friends erupted afterward, a chorus that resonated through the lavish setting as my face flushed with heat. I could feel the weight of their gazes, each one a reminder of my place in this family hierarchy, the poor, struggling sibling overshadowed by the golden child. Vanessa, the successful one, the adored one, the one who always had the best of everything, including our parents' love. I swallowed hard, the knot in my stomach tightening. If you've ever been underestimated by family, you'll understand every part of what happened next. I forced a weak smile, attempting to brush off her cruel taunt, but inside I seethed. I had barely made it through the door, and already I felt the familiar pang of inferiority clawing at me. My heart raced, each beat echoing in my ears as I tried to navigate this minefield of emotions. I stood there frozen as the conversation swirled around me, shallow chatter punctuated by Vanessa's laughter. Why did I even bother to come? I wanted to retreat, to hide away from their judgment. But I also felt a flicker of determination ignite in me. I had spent too long feeling like a ghost in my family's presence, too long accepting the scraps they tossed my way. I could feel the shame creeping up my spine, settling heavily on my shoulders, but I pushed it back down. Not tonight, I thought. The party moved to the dining room, an exquisite space adorned with crystal chandeliers and a long table set with the finest china. I took a seat at the far end, trying to remain inconspicuous, but my presence didn't go unnoticed. Vanessa and her friends, seated at the center, continued their playful jabs at my expense. "You must really love those thrift store finds," one of her friends remarked, an insincere grin plastered on her face. The table erupted in laughter again. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks. It was a familiar sensation, both humiliating and maddening. I clenched my fists under the table, my nails digging into my palms as I fought to maintain control. Throughout the evening, I witnessed the blatant favoritism bestowed upon Vanessa. She received compliments for her latest business successes, her extravagant lifestyle, and the latest exotic destination she had visited. With each compliment, I felt a gnawing sense of inadequacy deepening. They admired her, celebrated her, while I was just the overlooked sibling, the one who barely managed to scrape by. As the night dragged on, the emotional manipulation became almost unbearable. I could see my parents' approving glances directed at Vanessa, their laughter ringing with pride. I had given up trying to make them see me, the real me, the capable me. Every time I attempted to share my accomplishments, they would simply nod, only to shift the conversation back to Vanessa, who effortlessly stole the spotlight. A deep sense of shame settled in the pit of my stomach. Why did I continue to put myself in situations like this? Was I addicted to the pain, or was there a part of me that desperately craved their validation? I had longed to inspire pride in my family, but each gathering reinforced the belief that I was an afterthought, a mere shadow in Vanessa's radiant presence. As the evening wound down, I felt an overwhelming urge to escape, to get away from the laughter and the smiles that felt so foreign to me. I stood abruptly, attracting the attention of several guests. "Where are you going?" Vanessa asked, faux concern lacing her words. "The night is still young, don't tell me you're leaving just because you're feeling a bit left out." I hated that she had a way of twisting my feelings, her voice sharp and cutting. "I just need some air," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. As I stepped outside, I welcomed the cool breeze against my flushed skin. I leaned against the ornate railing of the terrace, trying to gather my thoughts. The moon hung high in the sky, cold and distant, much like the love and acceptance I yearned for from my family. A soft thud behind me broke my reverie, and I turned to see one of the banker's aides emerging from the house. He was smartly dressed, clearly a part of Vanessa's world. "Excuse me," he said, his tone professional, "but I need to speak with you about something important." "What is it?" I asked, curiosity piquing despite my reluctance. He hesitated, glancing back toward the house before stepping closer. "It's about the family finances," he continued. "There's a document that requires your approval." Approval. My heart raced again, not with shame, but with something else, an inkling of empowerment that had long eluded me. For the first time that night, I felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was my chance to turn the tide. The night was far from over, and the scales of power were about to shift in ways I could have never imagined. As the night dragged on, I sat at the far end of the dining table, my discomfort intensifying with each orchestrated laugh and well-timed compliment that flowed like wine among the affluent guests. My parents, oblivious to my discomfort, were transfixed by Vanessa, their golden child, who effortlessly played the role of the beloved daughter. It was as if I was invisible, merely a shadow lurking in the background, waiting for someone to notice me. "Vanessa, darling, this necklace is simply exquisite," my mother exclaimed, her voice laced with excitement. A glimmering diamond piece dangled from her fingers, a gift from our father who looked on with pride. Vanessa accepted the necklace with grace, her smile shining even brighter than the jewels. My stomach twisted at the display, the envy bubbling within me like a volcano ready to erupt. "Thank you so much. I've always loved this style," Vanessa cooed, her eyes sparkling as she turned the necklace in the light, basking in the attention. My father chimed in, "You know you work so hard, sweetheart. You deserve every bit of this. It's about time we acknowledge your achievements." I could hear the collective nods of agreement from her friends, each one an echo of my parents' favoritism. It was suffocating, the way they celebrated her while I sat there, an afterthought in my own family. It felt like I was straddling a chasm between their world of luxury and the stark reality of my own, one where I was constantly overlooked, my accomplishments dismissed like yesterday's news. A part of me wanted to scream, to stand up and demand recognition, but the fear of embarrassment chained me to my seat. I had always been the quiet one, the one who swallowed her pride and accepted the sidelines, but something inside me stirred. Maybe it was the warmth of the wine or the flicker of defiance that had been growing within me for some time now. As Vanessa continued to bask in the glow of accolades, I found myself recalling the moments when I had outshone her in my own way. There was the time I helped a struggling friend turn their life around, offering them the guidance and support they desperately needed. Or the countless hours I spent honing my writing skills, crafting stories that had the potential to inspire others. I had been so focused on the glaring disparities between us, her lavish lifestyle compared to my humble existence, that I had overlooked my own worth. I might not have had a diamond necklace or a luxury car, but I had something more valuable: resilience and a talent that could potentially change my life. Just as I began to entertain the thought of reclaiming my power, a friend of Vanessa leaned over and whispered, "So, what do you do again? I've heard you're into writing?" The condescension in her tone was palpable, as if she expected me to reveal some embarrassing secret. "Yes," I responded, forcing a smile. "I write stories. It's something I'm passionate about." The words felt heavy on my tongue, but an unexpected spark ignited within me. Maybe there was power in sharing my truth, even in a room filled with judgment. "Stories. How quaint," she said, her laughter ringing out like a bell, once again drawing everyone's attention. "Do you publish them, or is it just a hobby? I mean, it must be nice to have time for such things." The table erupted in laughter again, but this time, I felt an ember of defiance flare up within me. I could either let this moment consume me, or I could rise above it. I thought about the hours I had spent crafting my narratives, the way my words had the potential to resonate with others. I might not have the same bank account as Vanessa, but I had a voice that mattered. "Actually, I'm working on a project that might surprise you," I said, surprising even myself with the confidence in my voice. The laughter subsided, replaced by a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Vanessa leaned in, a sly smile creeping across her face. "Oh, do tell, I'm sure it's a thrilling read," she quipped, her tone dripping with sarcasm. But for the first time, I didn't flinch. I've been developing a concept that explores themes of resilience and overcoming adversity. It's something I believe many people can relate to, especially those who feel overlooked, I said, my voice steady. I could see the momentary flicker of surprise on her face, quickly masked by a mock yawn. How original, she said dismissively, but I noticed a slight shift in her demeanor. The other guests seemed intrigued, their laughter fading into whispers. The emotional turmoil of the evening began to bubble to the surface, guiding me to realize that I had something deeper within me, something that was worth acknowledging. I had spent far too long undervaluing myself in the shadow of my sister's wealth and success. I felt a quiet strength emerging, a resolve to reclaim my narrative. As the night wore on, I considered the possibility of unveiling my secret talent to my family, something tangible that would shift the power dynamic. Perhaps I could show them that my worth exceeded their superficial measures of success. The thought sent a rush of adrenaline through me. I was tired of being underestimated. Each belittling remark from Vanessa only fueled my determination to rise above the expectations set for me. I began to visualize a future where my words had the power to connect with others, a platform where I could redefine my identity. With that resolve blossoming within me, I knew that the time for change was approaching. I would not let this evening's humiliation define me. Instead, it would serve as the catalyst for my transformation. The seeds of my empowerment had been planted, and I was ready to nurture them. As I sat there, absorbing the atmosphere of affluence surrounding me, I realized that the true measure of success was not the size of one's bank account but the depth of one's character. I would reclaim my power, and soon enough they would see the real me, the capable, resilient sibling who had been hiding in plain sight. And as the laughter drifted back into the air, a newfound sense of purpose ignited within me, setting the stage for the pivotal decision that lay ahead. This was just the beginning of my journey to reclaim the narrative, and I was ready to embrace the challenge. As I stood there, the echo of laughter still ringing in my ears, I felt a resolve hardening within me, like steel forged in fire. No longer would I let Vanessa and her friends define my worth. My heart raced as I glanced around the table, a sea of opulence drowning me in its glimmering waves. The weight of my invisibility began to lift, and I realized that I had been given a gift in the form of this humiliation. It was time to take control of the narrative. Actually, I'm working on a project that might surprise you, I said, my voice rising above the murmurs of disbelief. There was a moment of silence, the kind that felt electric with anticipation. I could see Vanessa leaning in, her interest piqued, and for the first time, I felt like I had the upper hand. I've been writing a series of stories that explore the intricacies of family dynamics and how societal expectations can shape our identities. The room was still, the guests trading glances as if I had just dropped a bombshell. I could see their expressions shifting from condescension to curiosity. Deep down, I knew I had struck a chord, and the ember of defiance within me flared once more. In fact, I continued, my confidence building, I'm considering turning them into a business, a platform that not only showcases my work but also encourages others to share their own experiences. Vanessa's eyes narrowed, and a flicker of annoyance crossed her face. A business, really? That sounds ambitious. Her tone was laced with skepticism, but I chose to interpret it as a challenge. You know, I countered, I've realized that we all have stories worth telling, and I want to create a space where those voices can be heard. The tension at the table shifted, and for the first time I felt the winds of change. The laughter that had once been directed at me was now replaced with a palpable interest. I had to capitalize on this moment. I could feel the shift in the atmosphere, the way the room began to take me seriously. But then, the door swung open, and in walked my sister's banker, Mr. Thompson, a man who always seemed to materialize when Vanessa was about to unveil her latest acquisition or venture. He had an air of authority, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, and I could see Vanessa's demeanor change the moment he arrived. "Good evening, everyone," he beamed, his eyes scanning the room before landing on Vanessa. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "No, not at all," Vanessa replied with a bright smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I was just telling everyone about my sister's new business venture." Mr. Thompson's brow arched, curiosity evident in his expression. "Is that so? I'd love to hear more about it." The way he looked at me felt like an opportunity, like a door swinging wide open. It's still in the early stages, I said, feeling the adrenaline course through me. But I believe stories can empower people to rise above their circumstances. I want to create a community around that. Interesting, he mused, stroking his chin thoughtfully. With the right investment, that could become something truly remarkable. You know, storytelling has a way of connecting people, especially in today's digital age. The way he spoke was like a lifeline thrown into the turbulent sea of my existence. I couldn't help but feel a swell of hope. Could this be my chance to break free from the family's expectations? Vanessa's smile faltered, and I noticed the tightening of her jaw. But of course, it's just a hobby for her, she quickly interjected, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I mean, who really has time for such impractical pursuits? Oh, I think there's a lot of potential here, Mr. Thompson replied, his tone dismissing Vanessa's comment. In fact, I'd be happy to meet with you in the coming weeks to discuss how we can take this idea forward. I can help you navigate the financial aspects and connect you with the right people. As the words hung in the air, I felt a rush of emotions, excitement, disbelief, and a fierce determination to prove myself. This was the validation I didn't know I was seeking. I looked at Vanessa, whose expression had shifted to one of frustration and disbelief. She was losing control of the narrative, and I reveled in the moment. I'd love that, I said, my voice steady. Let's make it happen. The dinner continued, but the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Conversations around the table felt charged, with Vanessa's friends now whispering amongst themselves, glancing at me with renewed interest. I was no longer just a side character in Vanessa's story, I was becoming the protagonist of my own. As the night wore on, I could see the cracks forming in the facade of Vanessa's perfection. I felt a surge of liberation, knowing that I was finally stepping into my power. I had begun laying the groundwork for my future, one where I would define my own success outside the shadow of my sister. After dessert, when the guests began to filter out, I caught Vanessa alone in the hallway, her frustration palpable. You really think you can just waltz in here and take the spotlight, don't you? She hissed, her voice low and threatening. I squared my shoulders, ready to confront her. No, Vanessa, I'm not taking the spotlight, I'm creating my own. It's about time I stand up for myself, and I'm not going to let you belittle my dreams anymore. Her expression shifted from anger to something akin to fear. You don't know what you're getting into. This family has expectations, and you'll never meet them. Maybe those expectations are what I'm trying to escape, I shot back, the fire inside me roaring. I'm done being the shadow. I'm ready to be the light. As I walked away, I realized that I had crossed a threshold. The path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty, but it was mine to navigate. I would no longer be defined by my family's ideals or Vanessa's judgment. I was ready to embrace my true potential, to turn my hidden skills into something that would not only elevate me but also inspire others. The confrontation had ignited a spark, and I could feel it growing. The final act of this story was just beginning, and I was ready to take center stage. As the words hung in the air, I felt a surge of energy coursing through me. Mr. Thompson's interest had opened a door I never thought possible. You really think so? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. The room was charged with a tension that felt almost electric, and I could sense the disbelief radiating from Vanessa, mixed with something else, fear. Yes, he replied, nodding earnestly. With the right backing, this could turn into a real venture. There's a growing market for authentic storytelling, and your experience could resonate with many. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my sister's skepticism pressing down on me. Yet for the first time, I was no longer the underdog, I was the one holding the cards. Of course, Vanessa interjected, her voice dripping with sarcasm, we wouldn't want to put too much pressure on you, would we? After all, you've only been living off our family's reputation. Her words were meant to sting, but instead, they fueled my fire. I could feel the eyes of the guests on me, some curious, others judgmental, but I was ready to address them all. Actually, Vanessa, I said, my tone calm but firm, you might be surprised to learn that I've been financially supporting our family for years. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see disbelief etched on the faces around the table, and I savored the moment, letting it sink in. What do you mean by that? My mother finally asked, her voice betraying a mix of confusion and concern. I could see her struggling to reconcile the image of her beloved golden child and the reality of my contributions. I continued, that while you celebrated Vanessa's latest successes, I've been quietly investing in your lives, covering bills, funding projects, and making sure that the family legacy continues, even when it wasn't acknowledged. The room shifted again, the laughter that had once echoed now replaced with murmurs of disbelief. I've been developing a platform that not only showcases stories but also provides a space for others to share their experiences. It's been a passion project, a way to empower those who feel overlooked, much like I have. I turned to Mr. Thompson, who was nodding with interest. And with your help, I can elevate this to something that not only benefits my own life but also the family as a whole. Vanessa's face twisted in disbelief. You expect us to believe that you've been supporting us. You've always been the one in the shadows? Her voice wavered, and I could see the facade of confidence she had built beginning to crumble. Maybe that's where you've been wrong, Vanessa, I replied, my voice steady. I've never been in the shadows. I've simply chosen not to flaunt my wealth. It's time I stepped out of them. Mr. Thompson leaned forward, clearly intrigued. If you're serious about this, I'd love to discuss the financials and how we could structure this venture. There's potential here, and I can connect you with investors who see the value in authentic narratives. The guests around the table were abuzz now, whispers of disbelief and curiosity circulating like wildfire. I could see my parents exchanging glances, their expressions a mix of pride and confusion. They had always underestimated me, but now it was clear that the narrative was shifting. That's ridiculous, Vanessa spat, her voice rising in pitch. You're not a businesswoman, you're just trying to steal my spotlight? Her desperation was palpable, and I could feel a sense of satisfaction bubbling within me. Spotlight, I echoed, tilting my head. This isn't about stealing anything from you, Vanessa. This is about claiming my own space, my own narrative. You've had your chance to shine, and now it's my turn. The shift in the room was undeniable. Guests who had once looked past me were now leaning in, captivated by the unfolding drama. I had never felt so powerful, so in control of my own story. I had transformed from the overlooked sibling to the one who held the key to our family's future. Let's not forget, I added, my voice rising above the murmurs, that our family's worth isn't just measured in wealth. It's about the stories we tell, the connections we forge, and the legacies we leave behind. I want to create a space where everyone, no matter their background, can share their truth. Mr. Thompson nodded, clearly impressed. That's a noble goal, and I believe in it. Let's set a time to meet and discuss how we can make this a reality. As the room erupted into applause, I glanced at Vanessa, whose expression had soured into one of disdain. But deep down, I could see the flickers of realization crossing her face. I had not only claimed my worth, I had flipped our family dynamic on its head. Thank you all for believing in this, I said, my voice steady. I'm ready to create something meaningful, not just for me, but for all of us. The evening wore on, but I felt lighter, liberated from the chains of expectation and judgment. I had embraced my identity and my worth, redefining my relationship with my family. The power I had once felt was slipping away had now been reclaimed, and I was ready to embrace my future. As I looked around the room, I realized that the true measure of wealth lies not in material possessions, but in the richness of our stories and the love we share. I had finally learned to respect myself, and in doing so, I had begun to reshape my family's narrative. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more stories where the underdog finally gets the justice they deserve.